Welcome to Almost Here, Round the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies poised to transform our lives for better or worse are the focus of this podcast. Almost here means these technologies are now here and starting to be used, or just around the corner, from Bitcoin to artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.
Hello, this is Richard Jacobs with Future Tech Podcast, and I have today John Donahue, Head of Marketing at Cirrus Healthcare. We'll be talking about Migrainex. John, how you doing?
I'm doing all right today. Pleasure to meet you. Look forward to talking about the product and how we're leveraging technology to help people in their migraine treatment plans.
Yeah, thankfully, I don't have migraines. I have other issues, but I'm sure migraines are terrible and they affect a lot of people. Can you give a brief overview of what you guys do and how bad the migraine problem is?
Sure. Well, let's talk about the problem first. So about 12% of the U.S. population suffers from migraines. So it's about 38 million people, or 1 in 4 households.
Right.
So it's a fairly large problem, and the market itself, or the people that suffer from the problems, often don't fully understand what causes them, or have a clear idea of what's behind the migraine. And the National Headache Foundation actually did a study against 16 possible triggers, because once you tell people some of the triggers of migraines, they begin to identify with them. And what we saw very clearly was about 3 out of every 4 respondents reacted saying that weather triggered their headache pain. So we funded a clinical study to be done and validated that subject and that matter, that 3 out of 4 matter related to weather, because we had a thesis. And this thesis is actually developed by understanding and listening to our customers. So Cirrus Healthcare makes a product called Earplanes, and Earplanes controls the pressure when you're in an airplane and prevents your ears from popping, prevents your ears from having pain. And some of our customers were emailing us and writing in saying, hey, your product also helped me with my headaches. So we funded some clinical research and discovered that about 77 to 78% of subjects were indeed impacted by weather, and that weather event that was causing it was a shift in barometric pressure. So when the pressure changes, it causes a change to occur within the inner ear canal, and that is what brings on or creates the onset moment of the migraine event. So realizing that Earplanes was helping, we realized that, my God, if we now take a step back and say, let's retool the product to be rated for the level of pressure change that was then being created by these weather events, what was that trigger for the migraine? We could potentially help people who are suffering from migraines. And we now have to make them aware of those migraines and that event is coming. And that's where the decision was made that from an augmented product perspective, we really needed something that they could have on their mobile device, an app that was able to pull in the feeds of weather forecasts that are coming to understand when that barometric pressure change was going to occur. Because if we could leverage technology to empower them, digital technology to empower them to understand the relationship or understand when the weather event was occurring, then we had a product that can control that pressure and help them in preventing and shortening the impact of a migraine, a weather-related migraine, through an earplug product. And that's really where that product vision began to come to fruition, of an earplug rated for that 0.2 millibar shift with a companion app to help people understand when to place the plug in their ear. And that
so why does the earplug help with the pressure differential? When do you put it in, first of all? how far
So
in
you put it
advance
in,
of the pressure change?
yeah, you put it in when the pressure event is coming. So it's when the change occurs that you want to plug in. And the way the plug works is has a certain porosity um, and a small device inside that allows and prevents the pressure from impacting the inner ear canal where the pressure event would begin to start the migraine. So through the material that's used and a small device internally, it regulates the pressure and prevents the zero point 0.2 millibar shift pressure change event from impacting your inner ear canal. It stops the pressure from changing within your inner ear canal effectively. And when that is done, that then removes the trigger from being meaningful, right? So it doesn't cause the migraine event.
I like it because it's not a drug, is what everyone tries to push on you. And what have you seen as the efficacy of the product? Do you have anecdotal data? What have people told you about it? How well does it work?
Yeah, I think the best sign of whether or not someone is willing to continue to leverage a product and feels that the product works is their desire to advocate for that product post usage. And
Right.
in the study that we funded, and when we asked consumers about it, it was 85% of customers would either strongly agree or somewhat agree that they would recommend the product to another user. So about less than 15% of the people were unwilling to recommend the product post usage, and I think that's a good key measure of success relative to whether or not the product is being adopted.
Yeah, definitely. Can you only use it before the pressure change and before you get a migraine, or what if you're in the middle of one? Do you do then?
That's a good question. So you could put the plugs in at any point. It's going to be most effective if its use is preventative. Now, it is effective as a companion product as well. So if you have a regimen where you say you leverage Excedrin as a product, an over-the-counter migraine medication, and you feel a migraine coming on, you can still put in the plugs, and it will shorten the length of time that the migraine would occur. But at that point, it can no longer be preventative because it's already occurring.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm sure there's many times people forget about it, or they're running around and, oh no, I'm starting to get a migraine. It would probably be very useful.
And that's why the digital companion app became so critically important from a product development basis. If we could put into the device that you take everywhere with you, my phone doesn't kind of charging, right? It's within, a 6-inch proximity of my body at every given point in time. And when I sleep, It's only a foot and a half from my head. If I could create a push notification to let you know that it's coming, so you get a nudge and say, hey, there's an event occurring. You probably want to think about, preventing it before it starts. And that's why the app became so critically important, because if it's something that is just preventative and it's not something that's preventative that would be a daily routine preventative, you really need to put the customer in the know. And that's why it became critical for us to add a digital technology component to the healthcare technology device that we would create. And, when we did it together with the app and all in, and informed people about what it was, it said about 94.4% of people said they'd be willing to buy it and try it because of that combination of app plus earplug together, and in viewing it as that preventative kind of solution. And I think to your point, you don't want to take a pill for everything, right? So it's nice to have ways to remove problems as opposed to fix them. And I think that from a positioning basis and what the Airplanes product can be and what it can mean to customers becomes very, very critical for us. And, We view Migrainex as the world's first preventative solution for weather-related products.
Yeah, that's great.
And, stop it before it starts is kind of...
Yeah, my wife has a lot of problems on airplanes. Her ears hurt bad when the pressure change comes. And she knows when the babies are about to cry in the airplane, she tells me, because, she feels the pressure change so strongly. So,
well, coming out of this call, we'll make sure to send you guys a sample of the Airplanes product. So
that'll be great.
Yeah. To your wife, because that's definitely pressure has an amazing impact on you. Personally speaking, I participate in the sport of skydiving, and the worst part of that sport is the pressure changes that my head goes through. So, when there's a product like Airplanes and there's a product like Migrainex that holistically helps you control the pressure in your ears, and that allows you to stop migraines and stop being in pain on a plane, it's a great vehicle to do something to better your situation as opposed to something to remedy a healthcare problem. Because all you're really doing is leveraging technology. At the end of the day, the earplug is technology to change your environment that you're in so that your body doesn't get the better of you and your situation doesn't cause you pain. And I think that's an interesting value proposition. Now, the challenge that we're going to face as we begin to, get this product out there and try to help people with their migraines is making sure that they have that association with weather. Because at the end of the day, when you're in pain, you're willing to really blame anything, right? Because you're in a pain event. So making sure that we get consumers in the know from a product marketing and advertising and all of that perspective is going to be paramount for the product gaining adoption and success. So people create that association. So we're working with data providers that help us identify OTC shoppers of migraine products. We're leveraging advertising technology stacks to, when the pressure event is occurring, to message those consumers through programmatic interfaces directly on weather-related properties. So we're taking the value proposition of the product and using the role of communication is to be in service to the customer and letting them know this association and letting them know that there's solutions and leveraging more digital technologies to really power that. So we had a data scientist build a predictive feed that when the weather event is occurring, it's turning on and off key markets for us to communicate in and placing messages within weather environments against those OTC consumers so that they know that there's an alternate way to approach this problem. So
it's funny, you should probably advertise on the Weather Channel.
We're actually, I won't say the individual publisher because I don't have rights or use their name, but we have done something very similar. Yes.
What about reporting back when someone's using it? You have an app on the phone, which is great. Why not something where, the person reports back and checks in and says, yes, I put the earplugs in, maybe they just touch a button. My earplug that lets you know that their earplugs are in. And then maybe it does another push notification to say, how do you feel 5 minutes later? And you might get a lot of great, it would teach people to interact with it and not just be reminded by it. It's like a two-way communication then. Maybe you can have a few buttons where they can tell you the result,
You're definitely on the right path there. I mean, we are going to continue to invest and work in, fine-tuning the product and creating more social and communicative ways to better the experience for the users. And I think outside of recommendation from a doctor, the number 2 purchase driver in this category is recommendation from word of mouth, recommendation from a friend, specifically within this category. So us beginning to think about then how do you build that two-way communication and allow people to help other migraine sufferers get in the know based on their usage and their now new routine, because it's a preventative routine that you've now, sort of bought into within this process, I think you will continue to see things like that begin to manifest within our app begin to manifest within the things that we do as we begin to build up our base of customers. As I'm sure you all know, getting a product just out the door is a huge lift. So there's been a tremendous amount of research, manufacturing, design, digital, design and engineering to take it this far. But, Cirrus Healthcare is committed to helping consumers solve this problem. And we're going to work to continue our development pathway. And, we're not being public about what the roadmap is, but you're heading in a very, very good direction.
One other idea that comes to mind, I don't know if you've looked at it, but, it had the legend is, I could feel it in my bones when it's about to rain. And that's like a pressure-related event. Maybe arthritis is a tie-in, or maybe other physical conditions that respond to barometric pressure. You guys will either expand to with a solution or cross-market to those people. I don't know if you guys will look at that.
This has been such a learning process for us, right? It started with watching customer reviews and seeing that the Airplanes product was helping people in their, treatment and management plan for their migraines. So, we're going to continue to explore, and I think at the core of Cirrus, just in its name, is the acknowledgement that weather and pressure impact our lives. And we will continue, and we have been committed to continuing product development and product advancement to better understand how controlling that pressure can change somebody's life. Our founder, Drew, this has become a large, this has been his life mission for a number of decades now in, basically, understanding how he can leverage his understanding of pressure and its impact in certain situations, and how to control that pressure can better the human experience. So I think we'll continue to explore that, continue to conduct research. The product team, we're led by an inventor CEO. So we're led by a CEO that is, an inventor, and the inquisitive nature of our leadership has, systemically sort of mapped itself way into company culture to ensure that we're constantly looking at the data, constantly questioning, and constantly being inquisitive about the relationship between pressure and the human experience. So I think, this is a huge point in our story where we've now understood that this can help in a migraine, which is such a wide issue. And we will continue to look for more territories that we can explore in that regards, because it's a real thing. And, we now have a 20-year heritage in helping people solve that, begin to work through those problems. So, luckily we have, this is not the kind of healthcare company that, doesn't have innovation, exploration, and invention at its core. That is our DNA. And
let's talk about that for a second. I know you're not the CEO, but what's his story, maybe in brief? Why does he care about this? Does he get migraines? Or, did he fly planes? I mean, what's his story?
And that I might have to follow up a little bit more on his background. I can get you kind of a more detailed list there. Restating that just for the migraine sufferer again. Drew's, as any good product person and inventor would be, it's, ears to the ground, listening to your customers, and with absolute diligence, on every single review that comes in, the CEO is reading it. And Drew is taking the time to understand, what customers are doing and reacting, because at its core is that sort of product behavior, the sort of the product management kind of behavior to viewing the world. So, if it wasn't for Drew having his ears consistently on the ground related to hearing his customers and hearing where it goes, Migrainex would have never come to fruition. So, I think from a story basis, I could follow up and give you a more discrete history on Drew and his background. But, from a story basis, there has been a consistent sort of culture he's created around that sort of listen to your customer and design your product in that way. And that has, that's why we now have Migrainex.
Okay. One or two more clarified questions. So you talked about the airplane product, and I'm guessing there's a separate regular on-the-ground product. Can you just tell me the names of the two, if there are in fact two, or maybe there's more? Maybe there's three or four?
Sure.
That's a quick product catalog.
If you go to SiriusHealthcare.com, it lists out the variety of different products that exist there. Migrainex and earplanes are the main two products. But there's also some additional products around, CloudSoft foam earplugs, additional sort of softer foam earplugs once the earplane brand was built to begin to develop, leveraging our heritage now as a brand that is building plugs to help people in anything from water-related issues in your ear down to, sleeping issues and creating a quiet experience to, when you already do have a situation with water in your ear, how to clear that problem. So, the plug, there's two things that the brand has sort of broken itself out on. And, with earplanes being sort of the foundational technology, working to either bloom products that are pressure and weather related and or bloom products that continue to leverage an earplug device to better your experience.
What's the best resource for, this is so widespread a problem. I'm sure migraine sufferers are listening, to the podcast. So, what's the best way for them to get the earplanes or the other products? Where do they go, and what are some of the ways?
Sure. We're located right now nationally in CVS. We got distribution of the Migrainex product. It's also for sale on Amazon.com. And if you go to SiriusHealthcare.com, you can find what stores it's located and get access to also a place to buy it digitally. Earplanes is widely distributed around the world. That's, it's from a product maturity perspective that's been in market way, way longer. Migrainex went out into market the beginning of April. It started its run at CVS. So if you're a sufferer of migraines, head to your local CVS or come to SiriusHealthcare.com. Migrainex is located in the pain aisle at CVS and available for sale online at Amazon.com. You can go immediately right now onto the Apple Store or Google Play Store and download the app for free. So, that's the next step you could take right now so you can begin to know when that weather event is coming for you based on where you are in the world. And then, you could take that first plunge once you know the event's coming and get to your local CVS and pick up a version of Migrainex.
What's the app called?
You could if you just look under Migrainex and search under Migrainex, the app will show itself up.
Is it on Android or not yet?
It is on Android.
Okay.
Sure.
All right, great. Well, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it. And I know this is a big problem. And like I said, I have personal experience with my wife, and you have experience with skydiving, and like you said, millions and millions and millions of Americans do. So.
Yeah, and I'm actually a migraine sufferer myself. So when
really?
I first brought the idea of this product, my reaction was like, well, how the heck would an earplug, impact my migraines? And I'm looking at all the data, and I come from a computational math background, so that's what my degree was in. So I began to, all the data looked good, but it still didn't feel like this could actually solve the problem. And, I downloaded the app, and that first weather event that was coming, I put those plugs in, and there wasn't a migraine. And then I was like, well, that is that placebo effect. Am I convincing myself that something worked when all I did was take a sugar pill? And I waited to the next one, and I didn't take it. And what happened was I began to feel the pain start crawling up the back of my head. I placed the product in my ears, and I'm born sort of a non-believer in everything because I'm a technology and product guy at my core, and sort of landed in marketing over the years. And it's greatly shortened the time of my migraine. So I took it when the migraine was coming on set, put it in my ear, and it greatly reduced the time of it. So, I would suggest consumers, take the plunge. We all know if you're a migraine sufferer, you have a program that you do because migraines are terrible. They're debilitating. And I suggest to, take the leap and see if, your migraine is indeed weather related and understand your relationship between how you can control your pressure and help in your migraine prevention and treatment plan. It's worked for me. And, now I get to help other people get to learn about the product. And I'm pretty excited about that because migraines are no fun. And if I could help someone remove a migraine, I'll take the opportunity to do so.
That's great. That's great. Well, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. And I'm glad that we could do this to help people. So, again, thank you.
All right. Yeah, take care now. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
You have been listening to Almost Here, Around the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Subscribe to this podcast, post a review to discover more future technologies that are poised to transform our lives for better or worse, such as Bitcoin, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.